President Biden today calling on Congress to impose tougher penalties for senior bank executives whose actions contributed to the failure of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank.
In a statement, President Biden says no one is above the law, and by strengthening accountability, companies will be able to, quote, prevent mismanagement in the future. All this comes as the parent company for Silicon Valley Bank, which started this mess, is filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy to sell off non-bank assets and try to raise cash. So let's bring in ABC News' Elizabeth Schulze at the White House for more. Elizabeth, this is in the middle of a banking crisis. The president makes this move. How unusual is it, and what does he want to do?
Hey, Terry. Well, the key takeaway here is that the president wants to have more authority to punish these bank executives who he says might have started all this trouble in the first place. So he is taking the step of trying to call on Congress to grant the FDIC, which is the government regulator that took over these failing banks, the authority to claw back some of the compensation of those executives. So that could include any stock sales gains that they had as these banks were failing. He also wants the FDIC to ban those executives from having jobs at banks in the future. Basically, he's saying if you were at a bank and it failed, you should not be able to then go work at another bank. And the president also wants to expand the FDIC's authority to bring fines against these executives. So trying to take this stand and saying we need to hold those in the leadership positions accountable. Obviously, that's something he cannot do unilaterally, so he's calling on lawmakers to try to give the authority to the executive branch to do that.
And we actually had a chance to speak with two customers of Silicon Valley Bank to see how average people are reacting to the crisis. Here's what they told us.
You decided to close your account? Is that what you said?
Yes, I did. I just said it was a small account, but I was thinking about closing before all this happened. But
I have my money with this bank for a long time, and I'm very confident. I think people are overreacting. And the overreaction and the panic usually creates bad times. We should not panic. We should be confident in the banks and with our banks. And besides, we have FDIC.
There you go. So a little bit of everything there, but it sort of goes to show that some people aren't quite sure really what to do still.
Right, and the White House is really going to great lengths to try to assure Americans that their money is safe, because they are aware of the reality that so much of the banking system is built on trust. And if that trust starts to erode, there can be panic, and that can lead to even more failures and to an even bigger crisis. So what we are seeing is this really massive effort now from the private sector, too, when it comes to this rescue package for First Republic, $30 billion of the 11 big banks coming together to try to send a message, basically to say that if you have money in the bank, it's going to be protected, whether it's the government stepping in or other banks, big banks stepping in. All of this trying to tell customers that if you shouldn't be panicking, you shouldn't be racing to withdraw your funds, guys.
It is a confidence game in some ways, and when confidence gets rocked, a lot of bad things can happen, as we found out in 2008. So how are the markets reacting now? Have they calmed down at all?
Well, and that's what we're seeing in the markets, Terry. There is this very fresh memory for a lot of investors of the 2008 financial crisis. And when they start to see multiple banks failing in 1 week, they think back to the collapse of Lehman Brothers. And that makes investors nervous. They say, what other banks are going to fail? And we are seeing some other regional bank stocks take a hit today because there are questions about the balance sheets of these companies. And the underlying kind of question is how higher interest rates, these higher borrowing costs that have been imposed by the Federal Reserve, is that going to have effects on other banks? And the Fed might raise interest rates again next week. So this is something that investors are looking at. They're looking at the fact that a lot of these banks have had issues with cash flow when you're looking at the small, medium, mid-sized banks. And is there potential for this to continue to spread further? The reality is that they are very nervous, and the environment that we are in of higher rates makes them even more nervous, guys.
Well, the Department of Justice and the Securities and Exchange Commission now conducting independent investigations into the failures. So what exactly are they going to focus on?
The key question here is, was there misconduct from some of the leadership? You know, it's not unusual to see company executives sell shares of their own companies in bad times. But was there any evidence of insider trading or illegal contact? Were there stock sales that shouldn't have been done? Was there messaging from internally that wasn't publicly conveyed? And that's something that we expect the SEC to look into, as well as the DOJ. But there is going to be a lot of calls, and part of the White House announcement, the president's announcement, speaks to that there is a need for accountability here. And some of that actually comes back to the regulators, too. Should they have caught this earlier? The fact that a major bank was able to fail in a matter of 48 hours and that we're continuing to see some instability here. Does there need to be better oversight? Do the rules need to be adjusted to account for this digital age where bank runs can happen a lot faster than they did in the past, guys?
All right, Elizabeth Schulze from the White House there. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.